In Runeterra, we've got all kinds of champions with wildly different lores. Some of them are just there, barely doing anything, like Gragas, and others have a huge impact on the world, whether for good or evil. A while ago, I posted a video listing Runeterra's greatest villains, so I figured, why not do one about the greatest heroes too? Let's kick things off with one of the absolute coolest, Jax. Syjax Kale Renix Kohari Ikathun. For those of you who don't know, that's Jax's full real name. He was born a long time ago in Ikathia. The reason his name's like that is because Ikathians had a very specific way of naming people. Let me explain. There are 5 elements that make up a person's name in Ikathian culture. First, there's the given name, which is Syjax. Then comes the mother's name, which is Kale. Third, the father's name, Renix. And fourth is the person's role or place in society. In this case, Kohari. And last comes the clan name, which is Ikathun. By the way, Kohari was basically a group of warriors who served the Mage King, the title for whoever ruled Ikathia before they got taken over and turned into vassals by Shurima. After being under Shurima's thumb, the Ikathians discovered a void rift and thought they could use it against their oppressors. Jax was the only one who spoke out against it. Being a master of every weapon imaginable, he knew it was a terrible idea to use a weapon nobody could control. But they ended up using the void anyway, and Jax still fought on the front lines with his fellow warriors. He actually won several battles, even took down an Ascend, but in the end, the void turned out to be just as dangerous as he thought, and everything around him got consumed. Ikathia was destroyed. After that, Jax made a vow that he should die by his own blade, just like the Goari. So he went to the place where the void was first unleashed, but before he could take his own life, he spotted this flaming staff lying in the middle of all of the chaos. The flame on it was actually capable of hurting the void. He picked up the staff, turned his back on the ruins of his homeland, and dedicated himself to protecting the last flame of Ikathia and the hope it represented. Because of his shame, he gave up his full name and decided to go by Jax from then on. The following millennia passed with him, wandering across Runeterra, carrying his ever-burning staff, facing the strongest warriors out there, and preparing himself in case the void ever came back. Nowadays, he's a skilled warrior who fights against the void, a hero on a redemption arc. And since we're on the topic of Ikathia and redemption, let's talk about Zilean. Zilean was an elemental mage from Ikathia who studied physical reality and astromancy. His main goal was to master time, because he realized that time is the most powerful force out there. Even the Ascended weren't immune to it. When war broke out with Shurima, the council mages showed Zilean the void rift they had found. He was horrified, but there wasn't much he could do. When the rift opened and started devouring the whole kingdom, he locked himself away in his tower. There, he used all of his knowledge and power to create a space-time anomaly, basically a reality bubble where everything was frozen except for him. He spent centuries in that limbo, trying to learn how to move through time. Eventually, he figured out how to thread together the past and the present, stopping just before Ikathia's total destruction. That's how he learned to travel through time in different eras of history. Now he's basically everywhere and nowhere at once. A man out of time. What he does now is sift through endless possible futures, searching for one where salvation is possible. But every time, he keeps running into the same thing, the final ruin of Runeterra. So he's been manipulating key historical events, trying to prevent the final apocalypse. He believes that if he can save Ikathia, he can save everything. That means Zilean is potentially the greatest hero Runeterra will ever know, even if nobody knows who he is right now. Next up, Braum. From a young age, Braum was way bigger than the other kids in his tribe. His mom always told him that his strength should be used to help people, not push them around. One day, ice giants attacked a neighboring tribe, and Braum's mom helped them out. After that, the two tribes joined forces, and Braum's sense of altruism only grew stronger. He made a vow to unite the tribes with love, unity, and poros. So, he left his tribe and began wandering across the Freljord, helping everyone he could. And that's how legends about him started spreading from tribe to tribe. One time, Braum came across a young troll trapped inside a cave with a magical door. The troll couldn't open the thing no matter what, so Braum just destroyed the entire mountain and left only the door standing. That door, by the way, was crafted by the demigod Ornn. So yeah, Braum's basically walking around with a legendary weapon. As he got older, Braum found out he was an iceborn, a rare kind of human who can control true ice and doesn't feel cold. That's why he's always shirtless, even though he's in the Freljord. He eventually became friends with Ashe, Tryndamere, and Gragas. He met them during a bar fight that Tryndamere started, and also with Nunu and Willem, as we see in their game. But it doesn't stop there. In Ruined King, Braum travels to Bilgewater because one of the tribes had kids suffering from a mysterious illness. He heard a legend about a hidden island with waters that could cure anything. Obviously, he was looking for the Blessed Isles, but they don't exist anymore. Now they're the Shadow Isles. When he got there, Braum ended up teaming up with Misfortune, Yasuo, Ari, Pike, and Alawi. While they were hunting down Gangplank, they ran into Maokai, who thought they were intruders trying to steal the waters of life that flows through his sap. Because Viego had started returning, the black mist was spreading again, and it was making Maokai way weaker. So, to keep moving forward on their journey, the crew from the Ruined King game, the champions we control, helped cleanse the black mist from Maokai's grove. As a reward for their kindness, Maokai gave Braum some of his sacred sap, the waters of life, so he could return home with a cure. But even after completing his personal mission, Braum didn't go back to Freljord. He stayed and kept helping out in Bilgewater until the end. And Maokai straight up says that he's never seen a heart as pure as Braum's. So he's a real hero, through and through. And hey, if you want to be a real hero just like Braum, just drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member to get early access to videos and even choose future video topics. Anyway, moving on the list, we've got Poppy. Poppy's that one Yordle who never really liked the colorful, chaotic vibe of Vandal City. That's why she ended up tagging along with human caravans over in Western Valorant. Most of the caravans she saw were full of sad, raggedy people, until one day, this super lively and energetic group rolled up. She was instantly fascinated about how these people just broke down their entire caravan, then rebuilt everything from scratch using nothing but their own strength. Poppy and the other Yordles had always used magic for even the smallest things, so watching humans pull this off with their bare hands was straight up bizarre to her. Naturally, she got closer to the group and grew attached to their leader, a guy named Orlan. She started joining their combat training, although she kept questioning Orlan's commands, mostly because she was just super innocent. Then one day, Orlan told them they were heading to this big new kingdom called Demacia. Once they got there, Orlan quickly earned the respect of the whole place, becoming famous for his legendary hammer. On his deathbed, he passed that hammer on to Poppy, but plot twist, he told her it wasn't really his, and that he'd been only holding on to it until he found a true Demacian hero that came along. So Poppy swore she'd find the hero and give them the hammer. What she didn't realize is that Orlan was actually talking about her. She was the real hero. She's just way too humble to see it. That hammer, by the way, is a legendary weapon. So yeah, two of the heroes in this video are wielding legendary weapons. And if the hammer, being all magical and legendary, chose her as its rightful wielder, she's clearly the real deal. Next up, we've got Pantheon, or more specifically, Atreus. Atreus was born in a tribe on the slopes of Mount Targon. Ever since he was a kid, he trained hard to join his tribe's warrior circle. He wasn't the strongest or the most skilled, but he had this insane willpower that always kept him going. He kept getting back up, even when his body was completely wrecked. Over time, he built this friendly rivalry with a fellow warrior named Pylus, who actually admired Atreus for his sheer persistence. But one day during patrol, their group got absolutely destroyed by a barbarian ambush. Only Atreus and Pylus survived. The aspect of the sun refused to help them, so the two swore they'd climb Mount Targon and earn the god's power to save their people. Now, climbing Mount Targon is basically a death sentence, like literally. There are places like Demacia that straight up send people up the mountain as a form of execution. Since the beginning of Runeterra, like 11,000 years ago or something, only 20 or 30 people have ever actually made it to the top, but these two did. When they got to the summit, Pylus died. Yeah, he made it all the way up there just to drop dead. Sad, but that's how it goes. And then the heavens opened up, and the aspect of war, Pantheon, took over Atreus' body. Pantheon sees mortals as weak and incapable, so he thinks it's his job to take control of their bodies. Usually when someone reaches the top of Targon, the Celestial gives them a kind of blessing, grants them power. The Pantheon? No, he possesses people. So with Atreus' body under his control, Pantheon traveled around Runeterra hunting down the Darken weapons. Eventually, the Darken Aatrox challenged him to a duel. The fight was wild, but it ended with Aatrox stabbing his sword straight into Pantheon's chest, killing the aspect and literally erasing his constellation from the sky. But here's the kicker. When the god died, Atreus got his body back. His willpower was just that strong, and he was so pissed at Pantheon for using him that he straight up refused to die. Dude walked back to his village with a hole in his chest. There, he was treated by Pylus' widow. But then, another barbarian invasion happened, except these barbarians were actually running away from Aatrox, who was slaughtering everyone in sight. Atreus felt bad for them and got furious at the gods in the Darkin for using mortals like pawns. So he challenged Aatrox to a rematch. Aatrox was mocking him the whole time. Like, what are you going to do, mortal? You've got no divine power and your chest has literally exploded. And yeah, Atreus was getting wrecked. But right when he was about to lose, he jammed his spear into Aatrox with everything he had, ripped off the guy's arm, and won the fight. Because he's the goat, that's simple as that. After that, Atreus swore to protect mortals from the gods, the Darkin, spirits, whatever. Now he chills with his followers up on Mount Targon, taking on any threat to his home, divine or not. If you check out the Legends of Runeterra cards, there's even one where he defeats a demon. And last but definitely not least, in fact, he's one of the most important heroes in all of Runeterra. We've got Ryze. Ryze was a young mage apprentice born in what is now Nexus. Back then, it wasn't Nexus yet. His master was the guardian of a stash of magical artifacts that were stored in the Blessed Isle churches, which later became the Shadow Isles. One day, Ryze overheard his master talking with another mage about these insane powerful artifacts called world runes. These were the same runes used to literally create Runeterra, and they might just be the most powerful magical artifacts in the entire universe. After Mordekaiser's second death, the region of Valoran split into different nations. We don't even know all of their names, but those nations got access to the world runes and wanted to use them against each other. Once the first magical attack happened in the area that would become Nexus, the Rune Wars began. Probably one of the worst disasters in all of Runeterra's history, because we're talking about tons of mages throwing around world rune powers at the same time. Ryze watched as Runeterra started falling apart and totally freaked out. He even fought in the war for a while, but his master chose to try and convince the other mages to give up the world runes instead. That's when Ryze found out his master actually had 2 runes with him. Ryze tried to talk him out of it, but his master attacked him, so Ryze had no choice. He used all of his magic to kill his own mentor. Eventually, the war came to an end as civilizations collapsed and everything got wiped out. That's when Ryze made a vow to protect the world runes from everyone, to stop another rune war or something even worse from ever happening again. The thing is, Ryze knew that even though his life was being extended by all of the magical exposure, which is why his skin turned blue, he wouldn't live forever. So he needed a successor to keep the runes safe. He ended up mentoring this kid from the Freljord named Keegan Rode, trained him to handle the runes, and built a strong bond with him, hoping he'd take over one day. But Keegan couldn't resist the temptation. He touched a rune fragment and his body and soul got engulfed in flames. The power completely took over and turned him into Brand. Ryze was forced to banish his own student to stop him from getting more runes. It broke him even more, losing a friend like that. But it also made him more determined than ever to keep the world runes safe. And that right there is why Ryze is the greatest hero in all of Runeterra. The guy is literally carrying around the most powerful force in existence, and he's protecting it from everyone without ever using it for himself. He's resisted the temptation of infinite power. There's even a cinematic where Ryze saves the runes from some kind of watcher or void creature, straight up destroying it in the process. And there's an alternate reality in Legends of Runeterra that shows the second Great Darkin War. Just so you understand, ascended beings are already basically immortal. Then you've got Darkin, who are even more immortal than that, like truly unkillable. Zolani comes along and absorbs Aatrox, one of the strongest Darkin out there. Then Mahira, the aspect of justice, Morgana and Kale's mom, comes down from the heavens, loses, and gets absorbed by Zolani too. So at that point, Zolani was basically a living god, unstoppable. Then Ryze shows up and obliterates Zolani completely, not just knocking her out or sealing her into a weapon like what happens with Darkin. He straight up erases her from existence. That's how powerful Ryze is. But the real root of his power? His ironclad will. He literally restrains the power of the world runes and never uses them for himself. Instead, he sacrifices his own desire and freedom, living a quiet, isolated life. Also, that those runes don't fall into the wrong hands. And that dedication, going silent, sacrificing connection and a normal life, is exactly why Ryze is the greatest hero in all of Runeterra. If you're thinking of anyone else who should have made the list, drop their name in the comments. Thanks for watching.